You know when you're walking down a hospital hallway and you see one of those colorful signs on a patient's door? Well, that's not just decoration. It's a really important part of a safety system designed to protect absolutely everyone. Today, we're going to decode the world of hospital isolation precautions.
It's the big question, right? It's the challenge every single healthcare facility faces. We're all there to get better, but, infections that spread easily are a constant risk. The answer is a system with multiple layers of defense, all built to stop those germs in their tracks.
So, in this explainer, we're going to peel back those layers one by one. We'll kick things off with a universal shield that protects everybody, no matter what. Then we'll get into the special rules for germs that travel by touch, through droplets, and even through the air. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together to create a true culture of safety. Okay, let's start with the absolute foundation of hospital safety. This is the first, most fundamental layer of protection, and it applies to every single person, every single time. No exceptions. The best way to think about standard precautions is like the always-on mode for safety. It's a whole set of practices that assumes anyone, patient or staff, could potentially be carrying something infectious. It's not about being suspicious. It's just about being universally safe. So what's in this universal toolkit? Well, it's the stuff we've all heard about, but it is absolutely critical. Washing your hands properly, using what's called personal protective equipment, or PPE, like gloves and masks when you need to, covering your cough, and just making sure the environment and equipment are kept spotlessly clean. This is the baseline for everything. Okay, but what happens when you're up against germs that are especially contagious or kind of nasty? That's when that universal shield just isn't quite enough. We need to bring in a second layer of defense. Now, the most important phrase here is in addition to. I really want you to catch that. These extra precautions don't replace the basics we just talked about, they build on top of them. They're extra, targeted rules for specific germs that need a little more containment. And here's the smart part. These rules aren't random. They're specifically designed to interrupt the exact way an infection spreads. So now we're going to look at the different tactics used to fight germs that travel by contact, through respiratory droplets, and the ones that can just hang out in the air. First up, let's talk about pathogens. That's just the technical term for germs. That's spread through direct physical contact, or by touching surfaces that are contaminated. Things like bed rails, doorknobs, even medical equipment. So, if you see this bright orange sign, that is a very clear signal. It's telling you that the patient inside has an infection that's spread by touch, and that there are strict rules you absolutely have to follow before you go in. This is all to prevent carrying those germs out with you. The whole protocol is like a carefully choreographed dance designed to create a barrier. First, you wash your hands. Then you put on a gown and gloves. You use equipment that just stays in that room. And before you leave, you take off the gown and gloves and throw them away. And then, this is so important, you wash your hands again. This whole cycle is what keeps the infection contained in that room. All right, let's move on to the next tactic. What about the germs that don't wait for you to touch something? The ones that travel through the air in little droplets when we cough, or sneeze, or even just talk. This green sign is your heads up for droplet precautions. It's used for illnesses like the flu. The germs are carried in respiratory droplets that are pretty big and heavy, relatively speaking. They only travel about a meter or 3 feet before gravity just pulls them to the ground. So the goal here is to block their short-range flight path. So how do you block them? The strategy shifts. Hand hygiene is still a must, of course, but the main defense now is a mask to protect your nose and mouth. Sometimes you'll need eye protection, too. And to contain the germs at the source, the patient themselves will wear a mask if they ever have to be moved out of their room. And now we get to the most challenging threat of all. Germs that are so tiny they don't just travel a short distance. Nope, they can float around and stay suspended in the air for a long, long time. This requires the absolute highest level of protection. When you see this blue sign, you know the situation is serious. This is for highly infectious diseases like measles or tuberculosis. In this case, a simple mask just won't cut it, and the very air in the room has to be carefully controlled. And look at what's required here. It's not just any mask. It's a specialized, fit-tested N95 respirator that's designed to filter out these incredibly tiny particles. And just as important is that last rule. Keep the door closed. That's because the room itself is a critical part of the containment system. And here's why that closed door is so critical. These patients are in what's called an airborne infection isolation room, or an AIIR. The room is actually under negative pressure, which means air can flow in, but it can't flow out into the hallway. And get this, the air inside that room is completely replaced between 6 and 12 times every single hour. It's either vented safely outside or run through a high-tech filter. It's an incredible piece of engineering. So we've looked at the different tactics for different germs, but they don't work in a vacuum, right? To be truly effective, they have to be part of a bigger, coordinated hospital-wide system that makes safety second nature for everyone.
This chart really lays it all out perfectly, doesn't it? You can see at a glance how the required gear and the type of room change based on how the germ travels. For contact and droplet, a single room is what you want. But for airborne, that specially engineered negative pressure room is non-negotiable. It's all about a tailored response to a specific threat.
But even the best rules in the world only work if people actually follow them. That's why building a real culture of safety is so important. It means using clear, standard signs, like the ones we've seen, constantly training staff, checking to see how well things are working, and using those visible reminders to keep safety top of mind. And really, this is what it all boils down to. This isn't just some boring list of rules. It's a system built on a shared responsibility. Every hand that's washed, every mask that's worn, every door that's kept closed, each one is an action taken to protect not just one person, but our entire community. And that brings us to one last thought. Safety isn't just for the staff. From cleaning your own hands to paying attention to those colorful signs on the doors, everyone who steps foot into a hospital has a part to play. So the question I'll leave you with is this: how can we all be better partners in this vital mission?